Have you ever had the feeling that no matter how much you rest, your mind remains overloaded? As if sleep wasn't enough, the weekend didn't provide relief, and the silence of the night didn't bring peace. What if I told you that the problem might not be with you, but in your home? That's right, in the place where you should recharge, because everything around you sends constant messages to your mind. Even when you don't realize it, the energy of the environment in which you live has the power to stabilize or completely sabotage your emotional well-being. And the scariest thing is that this often happens in silence. Think about the days when you wake up tired, without energy, with a heavy head, as if you had fought a mental battle before you even got out of bed. Now, look around. What are the first images your mind captures? A disorganized environment, stacked objects, too many artificial lights. Maybe you've gotten used to all of this to the point that you no longer notice it. But your mind notices, all the time. And this silent accumulation turns into emotional overload. You are not unfocused because of a lack of discipline. It could be that your mind is just trying to survive the excess stimuli around you. Your home could be draining your energy, directly affecting your productivity, your mental clarity, and even your way of dealing with emotions. And we're not just talking about visible clutter, but about everything that your mind registers as noise. Purposeless environments, colors that pressure, lighting that irritates instead of calming, objects that carry stories that you'd rather forget. All of this takes a toll on the body, mind, and emotions. And the worst? Most people have no idea that their mental health could be being sabotaged by the place where they live. But there is a way out, a way to regain emotional and mental control by reorganizing something much more accessible than you might think: your space. The way you structure, decorate, and inhabit your home directly influences your ability to concentrate, relax, and connect with yourself. And when you learn to adjust these details with intention, everything changes. Your mood changes, your mind slows down, your energy is renewed, but none of this happens by chance. There is a process, and it starts now, because in this video, you will discover how to transform your home into an environment that strengthens your mind, not weakens it. But before you know how to do this, you need to understand why your home has such profound power over your emotional health, and what, exactly, inside it, is keeping your mind stuck in tiredness, anxiety, lack of clarity. What's in your space that's throwing your emotions out of balance, and what you can change today to regain control. Your home should be a refuge, a space where you recharge after a tiring day. But what if, without realizing it, he is draining your emotional strength instead of renewing your mind? If you've ever felt that, even after resting, your head remains full, your body remains tense, and your energy simply disappears, know that this isn't just you. Many people live with this same feeling, day after day, thinking that the problem is with them, when in fact, it is in the environment around them. Silent disorganization, excessive stimulation, and stagnant energy in your home can directly affect your mental clarity, productivity, and even your mood. But today, all that could start to change. In this video, you will understand exactly how to strategically organize your home to achieve greater emotional balance and mental control. We'll show you how small adjustments, which you can apply today, will transform your space into an environment that welcomes, calms, and renews. And we're not talking about big reforms or crazy ideas. These are simple, practical, and powerful changes that will make you feel a difference in your well-being on a daily basis. If you feel like you've lost control of your own mind, perhaps it's because you haven't yet learned to control the environment in which you live, and that will be your turning point. Now I want you to actively participate in this transformation. Right here in the comments, the word shelter. Seeing how other people go through this can open your eyes to something that was hidden. And if you know someone who needs to change the energy in their own home, send this video now. You could be the beginning of a much bigger change than you imagine. And stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover will completely transform the way you see your home, and most importantly, how it impacts your life. Every detail that I will reveal below has the potential to restore your mental peace and create a space that truly supports you every day. Let's go together. The transformation begins now. The way you feel inside your home is no coincidence. There's a reason why certain environments make you feel restless, tired, or overwhelmed, even when they're seemingly clean. And this reason is deeply linked to what we call the psychology of space. Your brain is constantly processing environmental stimuli: the color of the walls, the type of lighting, the position of the furniture, the noise level, the presence or absence of personal objects, the energy that circulates there. All of this sends direct signals to your mind, which responds with emotions, physical sensations, and behaviors. The way your home is organized, or disorganized, is interpreted by your nervous system as a reflection of what is happening internally. When you live in an unbalanced space, the mind finds no resting place. Instead, she remains in a state of alert, as if she were constantly trying to solve a problem that has no form yet. This continuous state of vigilance consumes mental energy, weakens focus, makes decision-making difficult, and fuels feelings such as frustration, anxiety, and impatience. Your body feels the weight of disorganization, your breathing changes, your muscles tense, and your productivity plummets. This invisible overload happens silently and constantly until the moment it becomes unbearable. On the other hand, an environment that respects the principles of balance, emotional minimalism, and functionality can bring almost immediate relief. A well-thought-out space, even if simple, sends a clear message to your mind. You are safe, you are welcomed, you can rest. Organizing the home becomes, in this context, a true act of mental care. Every tidy corner, every object with purpose, every point of natural light is in tune with your emotional field, generating a feeling of belonging and control. And when you feel like you have control over your environment, you begin to realize that you also have more control over your emotions. The energy of the environment where you live directly shapes the internal energy with which you deal with the world. Houses with an excess of elements, with a lot of visual information, disconnected colors, or aggressive lighting, for example, impact the quality of your attention and the balance of your mind. Your mind seeks patterns, seeks order, seeks lightness. A chaotic environment reinforces feelings of internal disorganization. An organized, clean, and emotionally balanced home serves as a mirror that reinforces your ability to manage your own life. It's as if the space says to your subconscious, "It's okay, you're in the right place. You can breathe." The psychology of space shows us that it's not just what's in your home, but how those things are arranged that matters. A well-positioned environment, with objects that represent your current phase of life, colors that promote serenity, and free spaces that allow air and energy circulation, encourages a balanced and productive state of mind. Your home should reflect who you are, but more than that, it should reflect who you are becoming. When your environment remains stuck in the past, with accumulations that have lost their meaning, your mind also becomes stuck. Internal growth requires external growth to follow. Imagine the feeling of waking up in a room where natural light enters gently, where each element has a reason for being there, where everything seems to speak to your need for peace. This type of organization is not about aesthetics, but about emotional functionality. It's about allowing your home to work for you, supporting your cycles, your energy, your mental states. A clean and harmonized environment reduces the need for your mind to spend energy resolving the space, and with that, you gain clarity, disposition, and emotional well-being to focus on what really matters. And this transformation does not require drastic changes. It starts with awareness. Once you understand that your home directly influences your mental health, every decision within your space gains weight. The furniture you choose to keep, the object you decide to donate, the way you distribute items in the rooms. All of this influences your mental energy. When the environment communicates clarity, the mind responds with presence. When the environment expresses lightness, the body relaxes. When the house is in tune with your goals, your emotions flow more freely. The environment you live in should be an ally in your growth process, not an invisible obstacle. Houses that retain difficult memories, objects that remind you of painful phases, or layouts that hinder the natural flow of energy, all of these directly interfere with how you feel and react throughout the day. Transforming your home is, therefore, transforming the mental landscape where your emotions live. You can shape your emotional experience by starting with the details around you: the light, the texture, the sound, the smell, the space between things. Each element is a piece of this emotional puzzle called home. What you are building around yourself every day is slowly building who you become. It is impossible to separate home and mind. They feed each other. What you feel influences how you care for your environment, and how you care for your environment profoundly influences how you feel. Therefore, understanding the psychology of space is the first step to regaining the emotional balance and mental clarity you seek. Because when your home starts working with you, not against you, something changes inside in a natural and lasting way. And it is precisely at this point that everything starts to fall into place. As you adjust your space, your mind follows suit, and what seemed out of control starts to make sense. What used to be heavy begins to ease, and what took away your peace becomes an opportunity for real change. But for this transformation to truly happen, you need to go beyond the surface. It is necessary to understand which elements within your home are acting directly on your emotional state, and how to reorganize this in a practical and intelligent way. And that's exactly what we're going to see next. Realizing the impact your home has on your mind is like turning on a light in a room you didn't even know was dark. It's the first step to breaking out of an invisible cycle of mental overload and starting to build an environment that truly embraces who you are and who you are becoming. Now that you understand this deep connection between space and emotions, it's time to look more closely at what, exactly, inside your home is sabotaging your well-being. Because there are specific elements that silently keep your mind in a state of alert, preventing you from feeling lightness, clarity, and balance. And this is where the real transformation begins. From here, we will delve into details that you may have never noticed, but that are directly interfering with your emotional balance. What comes next could completely change the way you live in your own home. So stay with me. Each new insight you gain throughout this video will bring you even closer to an environment that welcomes you, strengthens you, and helps you keep your mind clear and your energy flowing. And if all of this has started to make sense to you, if at any point in this video you saw yourself in the sensations I described, then this content is for you. And this journey is just beginning. Here on the channel, each video is designed to help you transform your home into a true haven of peace, clarity, and emotional well-being. So take advantage of this moment and subscribe to the channel. This way, you continue to receive content that really supports you, with practical and in-depth tools to transform your space, and along with it, also transform your life. As you adjust your physical space, your mind responds in silence. Every detail that goes unnoticed during the day, an object out of place, a pile accumulated in the corner of the room, lighting that always seems too aggressive, sends direct signals to your nervous system. The energy of the environment mixes with yours, directly influencing your disposition, your clarity of thought, and even your way of reacting emotionally to the simplest, everyday situations. And the longer you remain exposed to a space that overloads instead of calms, the more your mind closes in defense, trying to compensate for what the environment is not delivering, a feeling of security, lightness, and presence. Some environments activate invisible triggers, as if every corner is encoded with messages that silently destabilize your well-being. A disorganized house, full of visual and emotional excess, does not just represent external disorder. It activates an internal overload, a constant mental noise that drains your energy throughout the day. This excess of information in the environment pressures the mind to process more than it can, making it difficult to focus, compromising productivity, and increasing stress levels. The brain, overwhelmed by this unnecessary stimulation, begins to react with impatience, fatigue, and irritability. And this chain reaction affects the way you relate to yourself and others. The accumulation of objects, for example, is one of the biggest saboteurs of your peace of mind. Each item in the environment carries a memory, an emotional bond, a narrative that occupies not only physical, but also mental space. When there are too many elements scattered throughout the rooms, your mind interprets them as pending tasks, unmade decisions, unfinished stories. This unconsciously activates a state of alert that consumes energy even when everything seems silent. That cluttered closet, that forgotten box in the corner, the shelf that was never organized, all of this creates emotional discomfort, because while the body tries to relax, the mind continues to process the visual and symbolic chaos around it. Another essential point is ambient lighting. Light directly interferes with your biological rhythm and emotions. Poorly lit environments, with very cold or artificially white lights, make it difficult to relax and generate a feeling of constant stress. Blue light, present in many types of lamps and screens, stimulates the mind when it should be calming down, especially in the final hours of the day. A house with too harsh lighting prevents the body from entering a state of deep rest, affecting sleep, and with it, all of your emotional stability. On the other hand, the absence of natural light during the day also negatively influences your energy. The human mind was designed to respond to the natural light cycle. Dark environments during the day confuse the body, reducing the release of substances such as serotonin, which are directly linked to the feeling of well-being. And there is also a less obvious but equally impactful element: the emotional weight accumulated in certain objects and rooms. There is furniture that was inherited with heavy histories, items saved out of emotional obligation, photographs that take you back to phases that no longer represent you. All of this supports an energetic frequency that interferes with emotions. Home, when filled with unresolved memories, can become a silent archive of pain, poorly processed longing, or cycles that should have been ended. When you walk through these spaces every day, your mind remembers what, on some level, is still open, and this directly interferes with your peace. Furthermore, the way the furniture is positioned influences the emotional fluidity of the environment. Spaces with blocked circulation, furniture that impede the natural flow of the house, environments that become warehouses instead of living areas. All of this impacts the emotional behavior of the people who live there. An energetically blocked space almost always translates into internal blocks: difficulty expressing oneself, a feeling of heaviness in the body, resistance to change. External stagnation directly reflects internal stagnation. Therefore, reorganizing the house is not just an aesthetic activity, it is an act of emotional release. When you move what is still, something internally also moves. These environmental triggers act invisibly, but with profoundly real effects. The mind responds to the environment all the time, even when the body pretends not to notice. The smell of the house, the ventilation, the texture of the materials, the sounds that repeat in the background. Every detail reinforces an emotional message. A stuffy environment, for example, can give a feeling of mental suffocation. Excessively rough fabrics feel stiff. Repetitive ambient sound or continuous noise affects concentration and mood. And over time, this accumulation of unprocessed stimuli directly interferes with the way you approach everyday life. Your home needs to work with you, support your mind, your cycles, your phases. When it comes into opposition to what you are trying to live, everything becomes more difficult. Emotions become confused. Focus dissolves. Vital energy is diverted to try to resist an environment that does not support who you are. And the more you ignore these signs, the deeper the impact. Because the house, like a silent mirror of the mind, is constantly showing what needs attention. And instead of pushing this for later, it's time to start observing more consciously what your home is revealing about you. Disorder does not arise by chance. Just like stagnation or recurring discomfort in certain spaces, everything has an origin, and every origin can be reorganized. And this is the point where the real turning point happens. Because by identifying which elements in the environment are draining your emotional energy, you begin to understand where the biggest points of imbalance are. And with that, you can act clearly, with intention, with lightness. Because organizing your home is also reorganizing your soul. And from here, we will begin to identify what these hidden triggers are and how each of them is directly interfering with your well-being. What comes next will open your eyes to things that were always there, but that your mind has learned to ignore. But now it's different. You are attentive, and when consciousness awakens, the environment begins to respond. There's something that changes when we realize that the house is talking to us all the time, sometimes shouting, sometimes whispering. And the way you feel this dialogue says a lot about what is asking for attention inside you. When space is heavy, when energy doesn't flow, when certain corners seem to freeze time, this is no coincidence. It's a reflection, a sign that something there needs to be seen with more affection, with more awareness, with more presence. Sometimes it's just a drawer that refuses to be opened. Others, it is an object that no longer makes sense where it is. But when you allow yourself to really look, the environment shows you what's holding you back and what's ready to be released. And when that happens, even breathing changes. The mind opens, energy circulates, And within this movement, something new is born. If at any point in this video you felt that something inside your home is also ready to be reorganized, leave it on record with one word: release. Write release here in the comments, not as a simple gesture, but as a sign to yourself that your transformation has begun. Sometimes everything changes when you decide to declare what is ready to leave, to make room for the new. This word carries intention, awareness, and belonging. And by writing, you also inspire other people who, like you, are feeling that the time has come to let the energy of the house flow lightly. Because transforming the environment is a movement that begins in the invisible. And every word shared here is a part of this new atmosphere we are building together. Every transformation begins with a gesture, small but full of intention. And when we talk about transforming the relationship between home and mind, this gesture can be simpler than it seems. Looking carefully at what is too much, what's left, that which has already fulfilled its function. Visual excess, when it accumulates before our eyes, also accumulates inside our mind. And the brain, in constant contact with the overload of stimuli, starts to operate in a defensive mode, losing focus, lightness, and clarity. External confusion turns into internal confusion. The disorganization you see is processed as emotional disorganization, and this process is silent but powerful. Therefore, the first concrete step to regaining emotional balance and rediscovering your energy is to visually clean up the space. This means making space. Remove what catches your eye. Clean up what weighs. Allow the environment to breathe, and along with it, your mind too. Mental clarity is closely linked to environmental clarity. An overloaded room visually communicates urgency, pending issues, conflicts, and even a feeling of guilt. A clean, functional, and breathing environment conveys the feeling that there is space to think, exist, and rest. Visual excess impedes presence. Planned simplicity favors focus, self-care, and the perception of what really matters. The house talks to you all the time, and the way she presents herself reflects exactly how you feel inside. Environments crowded with things, full of visual distractions, interrupt the flow of mental energy, creating the feeling that you always need to be doing something, solving something, finishing something, even when sitting in silence. This is why, often, even at home, the mind cannot rest. Bringing clarity to space is activating an inner field of security, and this starts in a very practical way. Choose the room where you spend the most time. It could be the living room, the bedroom, the kitchen. Observe sincerely. What objects are there just taking up space? What is just serving as visual noise? What has already lost its meaning and remains there by inertia? By removing the excess, energy begins to circulate in a different way. Tadiyam, air changes. The environment breathes, and your mind, too. Simplicity, when applied with intention, does not mean absence. It means meaning. Each item in the environment needs to communicate presence, usefulness, connection. Everything that is in excess communicates confusion. The excess of objects, of contrasting colors, of furniture without function, creates an overlap of stimuli that exhausts your ability to concentrate. And every time your mind needs to defend itself from the space where it lives, it enters a state of tension. Therefore, the decision to simplify is, at the same time, an act of self-care and respect for your energy. There are places in the house that become deposits of unspoken thoughts, unprocessed emotions, abandoned intentions. And when you start to look at these corners with awareness, you realize that each gesture of organization is, in fact, a gesture of emotional healing. When you decide to take those clothes that have been piled up for days off the bed, something inside you moves too. When you organize a forgotten drawer, your mind creates space for something new to enter. This is the real power of visual clarity. It transforms into mental, emotional, and energetic clarity. And there is something even deeper in this. The organization of the external space validates its internal organization. When your surroundings are in balance, your mind feels safe to slow down, reflect, and create more fluidly. It's as if you say to yourself without words, "It's okay, I'm present, I'm caring." And this sensation, even subtle, changes the way you position yourself in the world. As the excess leaves, the essential appears. You start to realize that you don't need as much to feel good. Comfort is not in the volume of things, but in the harmony between them. Beauty is not in the accumulation, but in the intention. Well-being does not come from overly decorated environments, but from those that respect your current moment, your routine, your essence. The house stops being a setting and becomes a support, a space that supports your mind, your body, your emotions. And this process doesn't need to be heavy. It can start slowly, one corner at a time, one shelf a day, a gesture of lightness where there was previously oblivion. Visual clarity is built as someone gradually illuminates the house, opening the windows, letting the air in, recognizing the spaces inside and outside. Each small adjustment has a direct emotional effect, calmer, more focused, more energetic. And when you start to feel that, you understand that you weren't tired for nothing. You were just overwhelmed with information that could go away. Everything that is in sight is also being processed by your mind. Therefore, visual cleaning is as urgent as any other emotional care. It is a necessary type of silence, a pause between so much noise, an invitation to presence. A visually light space allows you to feel your body, hear your thoughts, notice what is alive in you. And this gives you back what the external chaos had taken away, your attention. Transforming the look of your home is, in practice, reorganizing the scenario where your mind lives, and it completely transforms your daily experience. Because by taking care of what's around you, you directly take care of what's inside. Organization is not just about what you see, it's about how you feel. And clarity, when applied to the environment, is reflected in the way you think, feel, act, and choose. The house becomes an ally, silent but present, on your path to balance and emotional well-being. And by starting with a room, a detail, a conscious choice, you are already planting the first seeds of this transformation. Because when the space clears, the mind understands. It is safe to relax. It's safe to be here. It's safe to be you. And there is much more to come. When the environment organizes itself, the mind responds. And the lightness that begins to emerge is not just physical. It crosses the body, calms the thoughts, and brings back a presence that excess had hidden. Every corner that frees itself from what weighs it down becomes a space of peace. Each object repositioned with intention changes the energy that circulates throughout the house. And within you, too. If this movement has already started there, even if in silence, if something inside you took a deeper breath when imagining a clearer, lighter space, more yours, then this is already a sign that the transformation is underway. And this type of change needs to reach more people, more homes, more minds asking for rest and reconnection. The simplest way to make this energy circulate is to support this content, allowing it to reach those who still live in the midst of excess without realizing it. A small gesture here has the power to open up space in many other homes, just as it is starting to open up in yours. When you feel like something good is being born, it makes sense to share that vibration. And enjoying this video is just that, spreading a movement of clarity, of care for the home, of presence with the mind, a movement where each environment becomes a point of emotional support, and where each person finds, in their own home, a safe space to simply be. There is a moment when home stops being just the place where you live, and becomes an extension of what you feel, what you think, and most importantly, who you have become. Everything around you communicates. Everything carries a meaning, a story, a vibration that influences, without pause, your emotional energy. And this influence is more subtle than it seems. Sometimes it presents itself as a tiredness that you don't understand, as a nostalgia that weighs you down, as a feeling that something has stopped in time while you have already moved on inside. The truth is that your home needs to keep up with your internal movement. It needs to be in tune with who you are now and who you are in the process of becoming. Attachment to objects, styles, memories, and spaces that represent old versions of you creates an invisible imbalance. Because by keeping the environment anchored in phases that have already passed, you prolong sensations, feelings, and emotional states that no longer make sense for your current journey. Keeping what binds you to the past prevents you from mentally freeing yourself. An emotional organization begins precisely with this recognition, understanding what deserves to remain and what is just keeping alive a part of you that already wants to leave. The house is alive. She feels your phases, reacts to your choices, responds to your cycles. Therefore, everything in it needs to have a purpose. It needs to reflect yours now. Looking at an environment and seeing yourself in it, recognizing yourself, feeling represented, is one of the deepest forms of connection between space and emotional identity. And this connection is only possible when the environment stops repeating what you were and starts supporting what you are building. The emotional organization of the home is a process of inner reinvention manifested on the outside. That's when you start to say, with clarity and intention, "This is who I am today." Each object kept only out of habit represents an emotion that remains kept for the same reason. A memory you avoid confronting, a pain that was muffled, an image that you decided to keep without even knowing why. When you allow your home to be a museum of what has passed, it stops being a portal to what is to come. And that stops your mind. It traps your energy. This prevents new ideas, new versions, new possibilities from finding space to flourish. Letting go, in this context, is much more than donating or throwing away. It's about freeing up internal space. It's about giving the present the right to take its place. It's about clearing the stuck energy that accumulates in corners and giving way to the lightness of an environment that speaks the language of your current moment. A home that respects your evolution is a home that supports your transformation, and this support is built little by little with conscious choices and emotional courage. Looking at an object and asking yourself, "Does this still represent me?" It is a practice of presence. It's a way of talking to your own emotions, because sometimes that forgotten outfit at the back of the closet carries much more than fabric. It holds a phase of your life that no longer exists, but that you insist on, keeping as if you still needed it. And the more you preserve what is no longer yours, the harder it becomes to create space for the new one that is trying to arrive. Your space needs to talk about who you are, not who you were. You need to carry symbols that inspire, colors that energize you, furniture that makes your routine easier, and details that make sense for you now. An emotionally healthy environment is one that welcomes your current truth with freedom, beauty, and authenticity. And everything that enters this environment should reinforce that, not question it. The energy of the home changes when it is updated, when it is reorganized to support what you value today. And that goes for everything, from the drawers to the pictures on the walls, from the decorative objects to the way the light enters through the window. Everything communicates, everything influences, and everything responds to your decision to live a life more aligned with your real feelings. When this environment is refreshed, the mind understands that you are in the present, who is ready for what comes. That is in motion. And the movement, in turn, begins with a simple gesture, recognizing that there are things that can go away because they were important, but they fulfilled their mission, because they were beautiful, but they belong to a version of you that was left behind, and because now you need space to grow. Emotional organization, therefore, is an act of respect for your own journey. It is an exercise in self-love, energetic maturity, responsibility for your well-being. Allowing the house to follow who you have become is liberating. It's as if the environment breathes with you, as if it pushes you forward, as if it says, "I see you, I recognize you, I accompany you." This harmony between space and the soul changes everything. It strengthens self-esteem, it aligns your goals, it protects your mental health, and it all starts the moment you decide to let go of what has already fulfilled its role. There are objects that hold wonderful stories, but there are also those that carry guilt, emotional obligations, and bonds that have lost their lightness. And your space doesn't have to be a heavy territory. It can be a temple of freedom. It could be a fresh start scenario. It could be support for each new version of you that is being born. When you allow your environment to reflect your present essence, you free your mind to be lighter, clearer, and more connected to who you are. And that is the invitation now, to feel what is ready to come out. Truly look at what no longer resonates. Make peace with the past through small goodbyes, and make space, with love, for everything that is wanting to enter. Because when your home aligns with your current energy, it becomes a place where the mind can rest, and where the soul can flourish. And from here, the next step is even more transformative. Let's continue. Within each home, there is the possibility of creating a refuge, a space that goes beyond decoration, practical function, or aesthetics. A place that doesn't need to be big, sophisticated, or designed by an architect. It just needs to fulfill a single essential purpose, allowing your mind to rest. The body settles easily, finds a sofa, a bed, any corner, but the mind needs more than that. She needs a clear signal that there, in that specific space, she can release the weight of the day, slow down her thoughts, and simply exist without pressure. This sacred space does not have a formula. It comes from your inner listening. It could be a reading chair with a soft blanket, a small table with a lit candle next to the rug where you breathe in silence, a cup of tea on the balcony at the same time every day, or an altar with elements that represent your spirituality. The important thing is that it is a space that speaks the language of welcome, pause, reconnection, a place where your emotional energy reorganizes, where you come back to yourself, where the world slows down without needing to disappear. The human mind needs emotional milestones to create a feeling of security, and the environment has the power to be that landmark. When you define a space that exists to support you emotionally, your internal system recognizes this signal. He understands that there, you can breathe deeper. There are no charges there. That there, you can release your shoulders, turn off alert mode, withdraw into yourself. Emotional regulation depends on this. Support point. It is what allows you not to be swallowed up by daily stimuli. It is what sustains your presence when the external world demands too much. Creating a space for emotional regulation is like building a nest inside your own home. And every nest has this function: to protect, warm, welcome. It's where you land when you need to remember who you are, when you need to reconnect with something deeper, more serene, more stable. Life picks up speed all the time, and without space to slow down, the mind loses its axis. The body continues to function, but inside, something is disconnecting. And the further you are from your own essence, the more difficult it is to deal with the outside world. Therefore, regulatory space is not a luxury. It is an emotional necessity. And it doesn't matter the size of your house, the routine you have, the rush that marks your days. You can always reserve a corner. 1 square meter of silence can transform the way you end your day. A chair by the window can change your morning. A mat where you sit consciously, even for 5 minutes, can rebalance everything else. The value is in the intention. When you declare to your environment, "This place is for me," you are saying to your emotional one, "You deserve care, attention, and rest." This space starts to function as a grounding point. When the mind is racing, when emotions fluctuate, when thoughts run over each other, the simple act of going to that place begins a process of silent healing. It's like entering a different atmosphere, where the frequency drops, the breath lengthens, the heart slows down, and it doesn't matter if there is noise around or if time is short. What matters is that there is a place where the inmate finds shelter. The entire house may be in motion, but that specific spot holds the vibration of peace. And by establishing this regulatory space, something begins to spread. The energy changes. The feeling of belonging strengthens. The house begins to gradually become an emotional ally, and not just a place of obligations. The simple act of lighting a candle, preparing tea with presence, sitting in silence for 3 minutes in the same place every day, transforms your relationship with time. You stop reacting to the world and start responding with more awareness, because your mind has somewhere to rest. There's a place to remember what really matters. This space also becomes a place for intimate rituals, where you write your loosest ideas, where you read something that feeds your soul, where you say a silent prayer, listen to music that touches you, contemplate a plant growing slowly, small gestures, full of presence, that organize your emotions without you needing to rationally understand what is happening. The emotional reorganizes itself in the subtle, and the house, when it respects this process, actively participates in your mental health. Creating this space is also a statement of personal value. It's telling yourself that you deserve to stop, that your mind deserves care, that self-care can start with something that is within your reach, the corner that you transform with affection, with intention, and with truth. This gesture changes your frequency, and over time, this corner of the house stops being just a place. He becomes an emotional anchor, a portal back inside, a point of connection between the chaos of the world and your inner calm. And it's interesting to realize that, when creating this space, you begin to realize that the entire house wants to follow this same rhythm. The vibration that begins in this corner expands, and with it comes the desire to transform other environments into places of lightness. It's as if the house itself began to ask for more silence, more order, more presence. Harmony becomes contagious, and this impacts everything. Sleep improves, energy flows, thoughts gain clarity, emotions stabilize. Your mind needs to know that there is a place where it can rest without defenses, where there are no expectations, goals, demands, just presence, just welcoming, just room to breathe. When you create this place inside your home, you are also creating this place inside yourself, and this connection between environment and mind becomes increasingly natural, more intimate, more powerful, because you begin to understand, in every detail, that transforming your home is also transforming the way you feel in the world. And when the mind finds this space, everything that comes after starts to make more sense. The challenges become lighter, choices become more aligned, breaks stop being a luxury and become part of the routine. Everything is reorganized from the moment the environment offers a safe point of emotional support. And this is just the beginning. There is a profound path that continues to unfold from here, and it goes through something even more important: learning to take care of the energy that inhabits the space between you and the world. Now that you've felt the power of a space that welcomes your mind and calms your soul, remember that this feeling can go beyond your home. Sharing this video is like lighting a candle in another home. You don't lose your light, but you help someone see in the dark. Let's spread this awareness. Each person who accesses this content is another link in this chain of care and reconnection. Taking care of the house is taking care of yourself. This phrase is not pretty jargon. It is a profound truth that echoes in every detail of our space. When you choose to fold a blanket with care, organize a bookshelf with intention, or light a candle at the end of a long day, you are silently telling your emotional system, I care how I feel. The environment stops being just a setting and becomes an active self-care tool. Each gesture that transforms chaos into order communicates a powerful message to your unconscious. You deserve to be in a place that respects who you are. This perception is subtle, but it has a direct impact on your self-esteem. The act of tidying up a corner of the house with mindfulness returns a sense of agency over life. When the world seems too fast-paced, when everything demands immediate responses and emotions are confused, a simple ritual like reorganizing a drawer, cleaning the kitchen counter, or choosing a new cushion in a color that calms you becomes a concrete way of regaining internal control. It's not about appearance, it's about presence. The external space adjusts to welcome the internal space, and the mind perceives this care as an emotional caress. Aesthetics, in this context, stops being vanity and becomes an expression of your emotional identity. Choosing colors that convey serenity, textures that comfort the touch, aromas that bring back good memories. All of this builds an atmosphere that directly regulates your mood. A visually clean and coherent environment conveys emotional coherence. Each object that finds its place, each surface free from excess, internally, reinforces an idea of clarity, of mental organization. This feeds the sense of personal worth, because when the environment expresses order and beauty, you begin to see yourself with more respect, more dignity, more care. The external reaffirms the internal. You deserve peace. You deserve beauty. You deserve a space where your emotions can rest safely. Transforming the aesthetics of your home into a tool for emotional health means assuming that your well-being begins inside, but flourishes around you. This happens when you choose softer lighting for the late afternoon, when you position a mirror to reflect the light from the window, when you reserve a space of your own to read or take a deep breath. Small details add up and create a cumulative impact. You don't just feel the space change, you change with it. The environment becomes an extension of your internal state and starts to function as a mirror and support. A cozy corner tells your mind, it's safe to stop here. Here you can regulate yourself. The way you take care of your home also teaches your brain to take care of you. There's something therapeutic about sweeping a floor, rearranging a closet, changing the sheets with intention. These movements activate brain regions linked to reward, a sense of purpose, and even anxiety relief. Self-care stops being abstract and takes on concrete form. It becomes visible, palpable, every day. There is no need for major renovations or high investments. What transforms the environment into an instrument of emotional well-being is the intentional gesture, the presence in detail, the consistency of affection poured into the space you inhabit. When you start to take care of the aesthetics of your home with this perspective, something profound is reorganized. You start to look around and realize that there is beauty possible, even in challenging situations. Home stops being just a place you return to at the end of the day and becomes an active part of your healing process. The act of making your bed with an extra pillow, choosing a scent for your space, hanging a picture that inspires you, all of this reinforces that you matter, that your presence there has value, that your emotional state deserves support. Each element of the space, then, starts to work in favor of your mental health. This link between home and self-care is silent but transformative. You may not be able to immediately name why you feel better when you enter a harmonized environment, but your body responds. Breathing slows, shoulders loosen, gaze finds rest. This happens because the brain recognizes visual and sensory patterns associated with safety, and emotional security is what we all seek at the end of the day. A home that respects your cycles and welcomes your silences becomes the territory where you remake yourself, where you perceive yourself more kindly, where you treat yourself with more compassion, where you see yourself with more truth. By transforming your home into a reflection of your inner care, you establish intimate communication with your own psyche. A cup of tea in the right place, a chair facing the morning sun, a well-tended plant, all of this communicates. You are worthy of attention and serenity. The aesthetic here is symbolic. It represents what you have decided to value in your wellness journey. Every choice that raises the energy of the environment reverberates in your emotional health. You feel more centered, calmer, more motivated, because the place where you live starts to collaborate with your balance, not compete with it. This environment also begins to nurture what is most essential in you, the ability to sustain small rituals of presence. When organization becomes part of the routine, the brain understands that there is a reliable emotional structure. This reduces stress, increases mental clarity, and strengthens self-esteem. The house, then, is no longer just a physical shelter. It becomes the mirror of your internal disposition to cultivate lightness, beauty, and coherence. And this cultivation bears profound fruits: more self-love, more awareness, more emotional health. A home that welcomes you with beauty is also a home that reaffirms, day after day, that you are worthy of living in peace. This process of reconnecting with the space that surrounds you works as an antidote to the emotional fatigue that accumulates in the small frustrations of everyday life. When you take care of the aesthetics of your home, you are, in effect, creating micro-oases of sensory pleasure and emotional organization. And it is in these small breaths that life aligns itself again with what makes sense. The colors that soothe you, the objects that represent you, the light that passes through the room at the end of the afternoon. All of this becomes a constant reminder that your well-being is a legitimate priority. The environment is no longer passive. He becomes an agent. It sustains your balance and expands your perception of personal value. You realized throughout this video how the environment has the power to sustain your emotional balance. We're not talking about something distant or inaccessible. It's about the space where you already live. Small adjustments, intentional habits, conscious aesthetic and organizational choices are beginning to rewrite the way your mind behaves at home. And this is already happening. The transformation began the moment you recognized that your home can indeed be an ally in building a lighter, more centered, more stable life. Taking care of the house is taking care of the mind. Every detail you harmonize in the external space communicates to your essence that it matters, that your well-being is a priority, that your presence deserves rest, beauty, and respect. At this moment, it is natural to feel the desire to delve deeper, to transform not just a corner, but the entire meaning that home has in your routine. And this desire is the first step towards a life with more intentionality, more clarity, more mental health. This content has already touched something inside you, because when the mind feels relief, even if subtle, it asks for continuity. So, comment below, which part of your home weighs most heavily on your mind today? Let's start with her together. Your voice here is valuable because it helps shape future content. Your every suggestion contributes to this space continuing to be a real point of support in the lives of those who need to. Transform chaos into calm, clutter into welcome, anxiety into presence. Clicking the like button is more than a gesture of support. It's a way of saying thank you for how you felt. and also to allow this content to reach those who still need to breathe better at home. It's like turning on a light in another room. You magnify the impact of something that was already good for you. And if something in you recognized the importance of this conversation, then being part of this channel is a natural choice. Here, each video is a reminder that your physical space can and should work in favor of your emotional health. With each content, you learn to master the environment, and with that, to master how you feel. Clicking subscribe is more than watching videos. It's declaring that you choose to live with more awareness, more presence, more balance. And if this transformation started here, it can expand. Therefore, the next step is in the following video, where you will discover how small organizational errors can be sabotaging your mental peace without you realizing it. The change continues, and it grows stronger with each new insight, with each new action. Thank you very much for being here. Your presence matters. Your self-care matters. Being part of this community means building, together, a new way of inhabiting your home and of inhabiting yourself. Every gesture you make towards a healthier environment resonates deeply within your mind, and this channel exists to remind you of that. And never forget, your home is an extension of your balance. Take care of her, and she will take care of you.